Hi, this is getting started with the Zoom simulation. Okay, so if you're new to the Zoom simulation, you must first click the student registration, and in here you will put your first and last name and your email. The username, I suggest using the same username that you may have for Blackboard and a password that you can easily remember because you know this isn't such a very high security thing that if someone breaks into you're going to lose anything. Um, but you don't want to create a password so complicated that you will never remember how to get in. So it's not like your bank account here or anything. So, and then the security code here, I guess you enter, and then you click yes to the agreements, and then you continue with the registration. And then here, we are not using activation codes, which is something that if you bought a textbook that came with a simulation, use activation code. But here we don't have a textbook since our textbooks are sort of no frills. You have to use a credit card to set up the payment. I'm not going to do this because I don't want to get charged. And once you click submit payment, then I think you'll be able to log back in. And once you log in, it will ask for a class code. And then if you look up on the, I'm not sure what the class code is off the top of my head. If you look on the syllabus, not the syllabus, probably assignments, you'll find the class code. And then you'll be ready to play. So let me log in with the account I've already created for our class. All right. Okay, so in this area, first thing you want to do is go ahead and pull down the student PDF. All right, so this is the user manual, and this is going to go over what this simulation is all about. What we're doing here, we're taking over a car company, the sales department overview, which is going to explain the selling characteristics of the car, fuel economy, engine power, safety features, luxury features, reliability, the sales price. Is going to explain how to design and develop each vehicle. Each vehicle comes with a customer expectation range and an importance factor. How to do a sales forecast, the vehicle growth rates, a chart of likely sales per year based on if all the competitors were similar. Okay, an overview of the marketing department, the advertising media, which goes over the percentages of effectiveness in each of the categories. And for example, here, television seems to be some of the most important factors. And then an example of how you can, convert that into dollars, because you're spending dollars, not percentages, on the simulation. An advertising industry report. They give us a clue as to how much money companies are likely to spend in the round, so you have an idea of sort of a top and bottom range of how much money. So if here economy class is between 2 million and 2.5 million, and that's 15% of the buying criteria, but we see that they only spent 910,000, so a little under the range there. Then you do need to create a advertising slogan and strategy. So here's the user's manual, and they kind of, I guess, they give you examples and the websites to go to when they talk about that. Production department talks about the capacity and how to set up the capacity and organize production. Research development, what's the importance of it, how it's going to affect each of the cars for each level you do of the research and development. And then finally, the finance department, giving you the capital structure, letting you understand how to raise additional funds, how to retire funds. And then there's a nice overview of the financial statements within the company that you're going to run, how to analyze the results, the overview ratios. These are the ratios that you're going to earn or lose points on. The year-over-year financial forecast estimates. Industry data. Okay, so charts and graphs. Who is the overall winner? Then is a nice thing when it kind of goes over the different roles of the company, different presidents and vice president of finance, production, and then a basic idea of teamwork. Okay, so that's the student user guide. You can see here it's not that long, it's not that hard to read, it's sort of like a magazine. This is definitely a must though, if you're new to the simulation, to go over this before you start playing, or while you're playing as well. And I'll probably refer to it a few times. Okay, so in this environment here, you can see that we have two areas, individual practice and team competition. Individual practice is something that you can do at any time, and you can do for as long as you like, as many rounds, start it over, keep running it. And it's a good way to practice your ideas, test out your strategies, and just kind of get an overall feel for the simulation. The classroom competition is where we are going to play. We're going to create everybody in this class is going to create their own team, and we're all going to compete together in this classroom competition. So let me click on that. So I'm going to create my team. Okay, that's my team name. And then I'm the president. And then now this is generally set up because this game can also run with up to 5 team members. We're not going to have that right now. So I'm going to put a fake email address in there. So I guess I will be playing all the roles here. But this is really just, you could see if it was a team environment, then you would know who is on your team and what their email addresses are. And the nice thing about this simulation, it has a role-playing element to it. So it's not just entering numbers in and seeing results. It's also sort of a fantasy. And down here they give a background of the simulation and our starting off point of what's happening, sort of the rationale. So I'm going to create a mission statement to build best. I'm going to make this very brief, but you can make it more elaborate. So I'm going to submit the company data. So now my name, you can name your team anything. I'd prefer it if you had some part of your name in your team, so that way we could kind of figure out who is who. So this is the first page, the sales department. So what I'm going to do here is design my vehicle. So fuel economy, it's 25% importance factor. That means 25% of their buying criteria or the decision will focus on this one element of the car. And since it's economy class, you can understand that. That makes sense. So I'm going to actually go above the range. I'm going to do 31. So I'm going to give them, I'm going to exceed their expectations, which should make them like my car. Now horsepower isn't so important, 5%, so I'm going to not really go above their expectations on that. And I'll come in somewhere between the expectations on the other characteristics. So here we have engine power measured by horsepower. Safety features, the types of safety features or number of safety features. Luxury features, the number of luxury features here I have 10. You can see that in an economy class car, it's not as important as it would be in a luxury car. And then the months of reliability. So the customer expectations is the car comes with 20 to 30 months of reliability. And that's 10% of their buying decision or criteria. So I'm going to put in 25 months. Okay, my sales price. I'm going to try, since the 999 is such a popular plan these days, I'll try $19,999. And that gives me a 38.85% profit margin. And for the sales forecast, I'm going to go back to the user's guide. I'm going to see, okay, so economy growth rate is 25% a year. And in year 1, if the competition, if we're all pretty much equal in how we're advertising and we built the same exact cars, that's what I could sell. So I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to say, okay, maybe my cars are going to be better, probably better. So I'm going to make it a little bit higher than the 25% increase, growth rate of a 25% growth rate on last year's sales. And now I just repeat this process for the other car types, and each car type has a different level of importance factors. You can see the safety features of what's most important to the family sedan. And I'm going to price my car. Let's see. And horsepower seems pretty important for trucks, so I'm going to give them some good horsepower. And just now for luxury, it looks like luxury features are important, which makes sense for a luxury car. And I'll put in my month's reliability, I'll price the car, and then I'll put my estimate, my sales forecast. Okay, so this is how you basically set up the sales department. You define your vehicles for that year. Now, in this section below, this is again part of the fantasy of the role playing of the game. You're not just putting numbers in cells. Now you have to kind of think about what you did. So here it says reflective observations. Describe your new strategy for redesigning your economy class vehicle. How will this help your company's performance? What factors influence your calculation of the sales forecast for the economy class vehicle, and was your design and forecast successful last round? So last round, I don't really have to answer this last question here because that's more for round 2. But I guess in the first part, I would put in oops, let's just fix that. Some sort of rationale as to my strategy for my redesign of the vehicle. All right. Okay, so here I'm just writing, I redesigned my economy class vehicle to exceed my customers' expectations in miles per hour while keeping the cost under control on the other features. I'm hoping that the GM percent will add to my company's profits. And the second question, what factors influence your calculation for the sales forecast? I used the 25% factor of sales growth for the vehicle class. And added 100 cars. Okay, so here's just a basic, just saying my car is going to be more demand, so I forecast a little bit higher. All right, so this is just a very stripped down approach to this reflective observation. I think, you know, and this has to be done for each car class. So this is really gonna, and I'm gonna, this is part of my, part of completing the simulation. The simulation isn't done unless you have these filled in for each of the car classes. And each, you know, each of them are going to be different. And I just want to know, what is your strategic thinking here? How is this going to help your company? And this helps you to really gain focus on what you're doing and make you think about what it is that you're doing when you design these cars and what you hope to gain. And these are basically what helps reinforce the learning or the strategy of the simulation. So I expect these to be filled out each round, and I will be going over them, and I may even ask some discussion questions on them, or I won't consider your round complete unless you've filled these out. Okay, so I'm going to go to the marketing, and in the marketing we have the demographic target. And again, these demographic targets, I had a question: are these targets actually doing anything to help me sell more cars? And the answer is these actual targets up here are just part of the role play, and they're supposed to tie to, and you could almost write anything up here because they're not going to affect your actual, I guess, demand on who's going to be buying your cars. But they're part of the role play, which means that if I create a demographic up here, when I do my reflective observations down here about either my advertising slogan or how my strategies for allocating my dollars, it should be, or here my advertising strategy, it should be involved, connected back to the fantasy of what I'm trying to do here. Okay, so again, I have these. This is where the money I put in here is going to be a big factor in what I'm going to sell. So for advertising investments, I go back to the user's guide and I see that, okay, so what are the two biggest here? It looks like newspapers and television are the two biggest, followed by direct mail. Okay, so when I go in here, here's the range. So I want to spend something around this range because that's going to be sort of the industry standard for this round. So I'm going to put the money in like this, and maybe I'll just put some money in the other two. And kind of that's my strategy, how I'm breaking it up. And maybe for a luxury, I would be spending more money in the categories because this vehicle, the advertising is typically a lot stronger. Okay, so that's basically the general point there. Let me just fill these in with any numbers just to get this moving along. And these, remember, these are not percentages, these are the currencies of what I'm spending, trying to fit within this range somewhere. I guess truck seems to be where the importance factor, you notice these importance factors add up to 100%. So these percentiles are utilized in actual calculations of how much demand I'm going to have for my vehicle. So the more advertising you spend, the more people are going to want to buy your car. It makes sense. All right, so down here, for each car class, I should have a separate slogan. And these, I'm just making these up quick. Okay, I'll try to make them a little funny. Okay, so with our luxury class slogan is you're going to look so rich that nobody will care how ugly you are. That's kind of ridiculous, but this reflective observations is really now the role play. What kind of slogans would you make for each of your vehicle classes? What is your overall demographic and advertising strategy per car? So if I was going to type this up for the economy class car, I'd say my demographic is 20-year-olds, mid-20-year-olds with an income of about $25,000. My advertising strategy would be to develop a car that looks fun, that would be attractive to this age bracket demographic, affordable, so people in this income range would be able to buy a new car. So I'd write up a whole advertising strategy as to how, and reflect it too. I'm going to be spending most of my money in television because that's where we can reach a higher percentage of these 25-year-olds. et cetera, et cetera. So for each car class, I develop a strategy. Now, this strategy, once you write it, it's going to stick to this box. So you don't have to really do more than modify it. Some of the other boxes, like down here, what strategies did you use when allocating your advertising investment dollars per vehicle class? Was your allocation successful last round? These questions will have to be updated each round. So you may want to keep a Word document just of what you wrote last round and keep it saved, so that way it might speed things up because you could just quickly modify it for the next round and just add in how successful you thought your advertising was. And this helps to connect you again to the simulation a little bit more than just entering numbers in the box, and has you think about, which is great, has you think about what you're doing and what you have done in your results. So that's the marketing page. Very important that when you're done, you submit this, press the submit button, otherwise your information won't be uploaded. Okay, so here we go to, we're in the production department, and we have first thing I have to do is my forecast. I'm forecasting 2,300 cars. Currently, I only have one production plant that makes 1,000 cars, so I'm going to need to buy 2 production plants. So I'll have a capacity of 3,000, which is going to cost me 20 million. That way, I'll have enough capacity to build the cars I need to build for this round. Now, remember, I'm not going to build in an excess or a shortage. This should always be 0 down here, and if it isn't 0, your pro forma numbers will be incorrect. And it just doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't I build exactly what I need less the inventory? Because we're not in the business of making extra cars just to have them, just in case there's more demand. We should forecast exactly the demand we believe we're going to have, and then build to that. Because no one likes cars that are left over from the year before. Okay, so same thing with the sedans. I'm going to need 2 additional plants to make the inventory I need. And for truck and luxury, I'm just going to need 1 additional plant. And as the rounds go by, I'm going to have to, of course, buy more plants as I, up my sales forecast. And here are the operational investments. I'm going to buy some operational investments in different areas for each vehicle. And each level costs me $2 million. And I guess down here's a little chart on what I get back for this. So for each level, I basically get a $3,000 reduction in the build price of my car in the following round, and not in the current round. So this is sort of investing now this year, and then next year when I go to build my car, you'll see a cost reduction. I'll show you that in the sales department in a second. Will help me make the cars more affordable. Okay, so down here, reflective observation. What is the capacity utilization percentage for each vehicle class? Production units. Okay, so my production units, let's do the economy. Let's see, production units are 2,200 divided by my capacity of 3,000. So here I put in econ 2,200 divided by 3,000. And I'd get my just gotta learn how to spell this. Is 74%. Okay. Why is this important? I guess I don't want to waste plant operational space. I guess this is good to kind of realize if I am spending $10 million to buy an extra plant so I can go to 3,000 capacity to only make 200 cars. That's a lot of money to spend just to make 200 cars. I don't think I'm going to make the profit back on that. I mean, that's something to think about. So this is really just kind of try to tie you into your capacity that you're buying versus what you're using for each car class. So then I would, after I did I would probably write some more here. I'm not going to waste time doing that right now. Here, what is your new strategy for operational investments in each vehicle class? How will your current operational investments affect your company's performance? So here again, I'd write I'm buying one level new technologies that will give me $300 reduction in material costs for next round, and that $300 reduction should help boost my profit margins and make my company overall more profitable. Something along those lines. Just really, and I do this for each car class, of course, and fill this in, and then be done with production. Submit that, and now to the finance. First thing I'd want to do here on the finance page is go right to the bottom and see, okay, I have a $12 million deficit here. So I need to take care of that. So I could either go back, to the sales department and say, all right, okay, in the sales department here, see where it says operational cost reductions? That's where that $300 will be there next round because of those investments I made in production page. But it takes a year to get there. So that's where you could look for whenever you buy those levels of operational investments or research development. The next year, you'll see the reduction in here. So maybe I will go in here and try to reduce my costs a bit on my cars to increase my profit margins. And now this can also, I should probably also adjust so my profit margins have gone up. I'm going to submit that. And I'll probably would have to think about maybe here's a waste of money if I make this one plant. I should probably go back to the sales department and say, I'm just going to forecast 2,100 vehicles on my economy class, and then go back to production and, make this just going to need one additional plant. And then I'll just put this down to, so now I've lowered my forecast so I could reduce my production here. And I could actually say that I would have to update this, that I'm forecasting to build, see my production is 2,000 and my capacity is 2,000. So then my capacity utilization would change to 100%. And I could write, I did not want to waste any capacity, which makes my company very efficient. All right, save that. Okay, now when I go to the finance page, I go down here, I see that I have an $8 million surplus. So that's basically, if you come up with a huge deficit, you're going to have to go and play around with these other pages, raise prices, reduce costs. A lot about what we talk about in strategy, I'll refer back to the simulation to show you how it ties in. But you could also maybe borrow some money. So I'm going to borrow some money here. So I'm going to borrow 5.5 million. If I scroll down, we'll see that I have a $13 million surplus. And that's okay because I want a surplus. If I don't sell every vehicle that I have forecasted, I may run into a deficit. And a deficit will cost you in points. So I'm going to try to ensure I don't have a deficit by having over $10 million in a surplus. So you can see that when I do borrow additional funds, if you see this 5% here, if I do borrow, say I wanted 13 million, and you can see that goes to 10%. So there is a cost of capital depending on how aggressively you're borrowing compared to the size and profitability of your firm. So these are dynamically changing. Your earnings per share will change. If I wanted to issue 25 million new shares of stock, you'll see that my earnings per share went down quite a bit to $4. So I'm going to put that back to 0, and now it's back up to 6. So you can see that anytime you issue stock or retire stock, it's going to affect your earnings per share and all your per share ratios. Okay, so here we have last year's financial statement. We all start the company at the same level 1 year in, so we're all at the same starting point. So we could kind of see that I'm increasing sales here, I'm increasing profits, and I have a surplus. All right. Now, if you want your balance sheet to balance, this little note says here you have to take your cash surplus, add it to your total assets, and then your total assets and total liabilities and equity will match. All right, so reflective observations down here. What is your strategy for additional funds and retiring funds? So if no matter what you're doing, I want you to fill this out and give me an idea of why you're borrowing money or why you're retiring funds and how you think this will help. And then, are the pro forma financial statements reflective of your strategic plans? What is your strategic plans? Mine is, like every company should be, to maximize shareholders' wealth. How has your company's strategic decisions improved your sales, cash surplus, net profits, and profit margins? So here, each round, I'd reflect upon, if I'm increasing them, why I'm building up a cash surplus, how my net profits being affected, and profit margins. So, net profits are something that are listed right here. A profit margin, I could just take my net profits, divide it into my sales to get a profit margin. So I want to, I want you guys to fill this out so I get an understanding that you understand what you're doing and the ramifications of your decisions on your company's specifically sales, net profits, and profit margins. Remember, it's critical that every company continue to increase sales, profits, and profit margins to keep investors happy. Okay, so once I complete the finance page, I am done, and round one has been submitted. And now I'm going to set up a schedule. It's going to be sort of an automatic schedule where all these rounds will process, but you won't see your results in the team competition area until all the other students have submitted their team decisions, and then I have processed the round. And then when the round is processed, then you can go back in and your team decisions will be displayed. Now, if you don't submit your simulation, the computer will automatically submit the lowest possible values or the values you had the previous round as your submission, which means you're not going to be able to make a lot of points. You'll probably lose points or come up slightly positive. So if you don't, your punishment basically, not from me, but from the simulation, if you don't complete the simulation by the time the round runs, you're not going to be able to get the points you need to get the grade that you need for the simulation. So I'll post the schedule up on Blackboard, and then once all the teams have submitted their work before the deadline, simulation will process, and you could log in an hour later and see the results. And the results will be displayed on graphs and charts and an overview page that measures your points. And then I will create a lecture on reviewing the results for each round, and I'll post that so you get an idea of what's happening. Now, I would like everybody to try one or two rounds, hopefully 2 rounds, so you can kind of see how you're scored in the practice simulation. And then after the practice simulation after you do 2 rounds, you probably will be in good shape to start the first round of the team competition. If you have any questions about the simulation or how it's working, please visit me during the office hours we have set up online, or send me an email and we could work on it. Or you can even send me requests of things that you want me to go over more during one of these simulation lectures, and I'll create a little video tutorial and post it, and then kind of answer everyone's question at once. All right, good luck.